Why did I leave the FDA? I didn't leave the FDA left me. And I'm going to explain that statement.
On this week's Status Report, Stat FDA reporter Lizzy Lawrence and I head to the leafy suburbs of Washington, D.C. to meet some former FDA officials who have all left the agency since the beginning of the second Trump administration.
The government has lost so many workers over the past year, and I focus on the FDA, so I've been writing a lot about, the layoffs that came in February and April of last year at the agency, which was one of the most impacted across the health department, as well as some of the brain drain, with leaders being pushed out or deciding to leave after the layoffs had targeted their support staff, after there's been reports of, more political pressure influencing science. And so I've been writing about all these things, but I haven't really had time to kind of step back and write, who are these people that left the agency, that spent decades of their lives, working to protect public health, working to make sure that we have access to safe and effective medicines and food and all of these things. So we've profiled 6 of the people who left, who told me that they really had no intentions of leaving FDA and probably would have spent the rest of their careers there. And so we talked to them and asked them about what drew them to the agency, what their work was like, and ultimately why they left. Is that good?
That was perfect.
Okay.
As a kid, I was really interested in biology and chemistry from a perspective of just wanting to understand what everything's made of and how it works, how life and consciousness and people can exist from these atoms and molecules. I think I was just really interested in understanding that mystery. Then working at the FDA, I was really excited about the opportunity to be able to apply that kind of puzzle-solving perspective, but direct it at something very concrete.
I remember very early on when I was in high school, actually, I was actually sitting on my bedroom floor in Calumet City, Illinois, and I had out the medical school catalog from Northwestern University Medical School. And I was going through it, and I remember going through the neurology department and the infectious disease department, cardiology department, and I said, I want to be one of these doctors because they have to be the best doctors because they're actually teaching other doctors.
When I came to this country, I was very conscious of how privileged I am to be in the US. You see all of the amazing advancements in science and technology, and not many people get this opportunity to come here. I just felt like I had to give back. I have this deep sense of service, basically. And I also was interested in solving problems that I think are just too big for any one institution or one company to solve. Sedative hypnotics were part of my drugs that I did surveillance on. And people may remember, but there was this big thing, it must have been in like the early 2000s, where they discovered that people were taking like Zolpidem, Ambien, those types of drugs, were sleepwalking and doing sort of sleep behaviors after taking the medication. So I read those reports when they came in. People would say, I took my Ambien and I woke up in the next morning and I had like sandwich makings on my kitchen counter because I got up in the middle of the night and I started eating, and I didn't really have, sentient knowledge of it. It was kind of a surprise when they woke up in the morning. There were reports of sleep driving where people would go and take their medication and then somehow get in their car, which was awful, an awful safety issue. So anyway, that was like one of the big safety issues that I worked on when I first started at FDA.
As things started coming into focus about COVID and like working side by side with Peter Marks, as he had this vision for sort of a parallel, a stacked up process for developing the vaccines rather than a sequential version. Helping him stand up Warp Speed, I think, like, late nights, very early mornings, like definitely conversations that were had at 4 a.m., maybe at 11 p.m., but really like driven towards helping folks and like remembering what it was like when we all were afraid to be near each other. So the night that we authorized the first emergency use authorization, remember like hitting the send button and like it just feeling like such a relief. And then I looked out my window and some friends of mine had come over with a bottle of champagne, which they came separately in 2 separate cars, left it on the doorstep and like called to me from the front yard. So it was really like, we did this, you know, really proud moment.
HHS had decided that my expertise could be used better elsewhere, and they wanted to have a conversation about a potential reassignment. But I was on admin leave until that discussion took place, but it never did. It was a patient affairs office or something along those lines. I don't even remember the name. As soon as I saw the email, I went looking. And others that received a similar email did the same. And we all reached agreement that this didn't exist. But I was trying to figure out, and I did ask, well, where is this place? You know, what does it do? Who's in charge? What's its mandate? What would I be doing? And, you know, when would this take place? And unfortunately, I was never able to get answers.
I left the FDA because I wanted to work in a place where my values were aligned with the work that I wanted to do. And quite honestly, when you get to a place where things like diversity means something negative, I find that strange as a scientist, because diversity and inclusion in clinical trials is good science. When you make sure that the people in your trials are representative of the patients who will take the drug, that is good science. This should not be something that is politicized.
Why did I leave the FDA? I didn't leave the FDA. The FDA left me. And I'm going to explain that statement. Whenever I interviewed people, one of the questions that they always asked was, is there political interference, or what is the role of the commissioner and the political appointees in the regulatory process? And I had always said that there was none. In fact, I always said that I never had a commissioner that called me up and said, Rick, what are you doing with this drug? I want it approved, or I don't want it approved. What is your thoughts on this drug? There was really a firewall that existed between the political appointees and the agents and the review staff and those people that made decisions in drug development. And I really felt that this wall was being breached by the political appointees on many levels, not only the regulatory decision-making, but the appointment of staff. I really felt that there was issues of people really bringing in other points of view and not letting the review staff really do their work in a very constructive manner and with a lot of interference here. And so that made me feel very uncomfortable.
It is really concerning that so many long-term dedicated staff at FDA who are well into their careers and have a lot of experience developing drugs, understand the challenges and know how to meet them, are gone because training and mentoring is an essential part of the development of a new reviewer. It's important not only for the FDA and for its function, but also for the sponsors that are spending a lot of time and money trying to do good science, trying to bring forward products quickly, but also trying to make sure that what they bring forward is safe and effective. It also affects reliability of the advice that comes from the agency. So it hurts patients, it hurts the sponsors, it hurts the healthcare providers that are relying on the information that they would normally get from the FDA if they don't have highly trained people there who know the history, know the background, know the science, and can put it all together.
sad. It's just sad when I think of it. I thought I would stay there and it would have to pry me out of my office, okay? I love the people that I worked with. Not only were they co-workers, they were personal friends. There were many job opportunities that people came to me and asked me about. And uniformly, it was like, no, 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 no. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And I think that this is a unique aspect. And I really appreciate the time that I had at the FDA. I really consider it a gift from the American public that unfortunately is no longer there.
Thanks so much to all the former FDA staff that shared their stories with us. Check out Lizzy's examination on statnews.com. It was so great working with Lizzy on this project and seeing all my friends at Stat's Washington, D.C. Bureau. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It's a little click, but it's a big deal for us. And we'll be back next week. Same stat time, same stat channel.